Hey everybody, how you doing? Before we get into our unit in terms of how to do certain things on a mountain bike, which we're going to be talking about a little bit, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a little time, all right, and I wanted to kind of show you the equipment that you would need if you're interested in going out on a trail for long rides. You know, you can go out on any bike. It's just your comfort level and what you're going to be able to do is limited depending on the bike. All right, so, you know, for the first thing you want is some type of bike with a suspension. All right, so I have a couple examples of some different bikes here. I have a little bit of a fetish with bikes. I like to collect them and work on them. Okay, so first one I'm going to show you. All right, so this is what's known as this is my beach cruiser. So I refinished this one. All right, but this is a rigid bike. Okay, and what it means by rigid, all right, is there's no suspension. So we have no front suspension. Okay, no full suspension. The frame absorbs, okay, all of the impact that it takes, which in turn goes into you. Okay, so you find that if you're riding trails on a rigid bike, you're going to get tired really fast. Okay, because you're absorbing all that energy from the obstacles and from the banging around that you're getting when you're riding. Okay, the other thing you want to look for is make sure you have multiple speeds. So beach cruiser, one speed. You go as far as you can, as fast as you can. All right, when you can't get up a hill, you get up and you walk. Okay, mountain bikes are made, all right, with special gearing, all right, to be able to get you uphill, all right, a little bit easier. All right, so this is our example of our rigid bike. All right, next up we have our full suspension. Now my full suspension, I would not suggest taking out onto a trail. This is a bike I bought for my son years ago, just to kind of mess around on it, had a full suspension, but I can at least show you what that looks like. Okay, so my full suspension bike, what you're gonna see is has a suspension in the middle. Okay, so my suspension is here as I ride, okay, and hit bumps and logs and things like that. All right, that suspension absorbs that impact, okay, taking it a little easier on me and my bike. All right, what I prefer to ride, which is, you know, you want more full suspension. There it goes, falling down. Full suspensions are going to be for more downhill, okay, or where you're going over a lot of obstacles. The negative to a full suspension bike, okay, is it's a little tougher to pedal uphill because of that rocking with the suspension. What a lot of full suspension companies have done, or companies that build full suspension bikes have done, okay, is they have built in a lockout switch, okay, where if you're in a climbing mode, all right, you can lock that suspension out, basically turning it into a rigid bike while you're riding uphill. Okay, I can do the same thing on my front suspension. So this is a Trek, okay, front suspension bike. What you'll notice, all right, is my suspension is here, okay, and I'm rigid in the rear. All right, so for the type of riding that I do, okay, which is mostly cross country, not a lot of downhill, okay, I do a lot of off-road single track, all right, this is a perfect bike for me. All right, would I want a full suspension? Yeah, all right, but they're a little expensive, and I don't do enough riding for that type of riding to really justify the cost of it. All right, these can get pretty expensive. All right, you know, the better you get, and there's all kinds of bells and whistles on it. Okay, so in terms of our bike, we got our rigid bike, we have our full suspension, and we have our front suspension. And I can even lock out my front suspension, all right, if I were going uphill or if I have this on the road. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is how to fit on a bike. You might look, my seat's pretty high here, okay? And I think probably the biggest mistake I see a lot of people when they're riding around is their bike's not fitted right. Okay, usually their seat's too low and their knees are coming up too high. Okay, so you got to think, if we're out on a 15, 20, 25 mile an hour or 25 mile trail ride, okay, we need as much energy as we can get. We don't want to be bursting energy at the seams, okay, wasting it, all right, where we can't make it back. All right, so when you get fitted on your bike, what you want is you want your leg to be almost totally straight at the bottom. Okay, so what I tell people is as I get on here, all right, if you put your heel on the bike and your heel can lock out, all right, you're in a pretty good spot here. Okay, it's not too high, it's not too low. Now when I put the ball of my feet on there, I got a little bend in my knee. Okay, so I want that seat to be higher. Now one of the issues with a higher seat, again, all right, is when I'm going downhill, I want that seat to be lower. All right, I want my center of gravity lower as I'm going downhill. Okay, so again, all kinds of things you can buy for this. You can buy something called a dropper seat, okay, where you hit a button, your seat drops down, okay, and then when you're ready to start climbing or you're ready to start pedaling hard again, you can lift it back up basically with the push of a button. Okay, so there's our bikes. One other thing I wanted to show you on the bike was the pedals. Okay, now you'll notice I have some big pedals on here. These are my summer pedals where I can ride with my shoes or not. All right, but what you'll see is to be a little more efficient, all right, the type of pedal that we have. All right, so what's very common now is something called a clipless pedal. Okay, even though you clip in, I'm not going to go into the story behind that because it's a little too long. Okay, but if you see the difference between my pedals here, all right, this is just your flat pedal that most of you guys are used to, comes on every bike. Okay, and this is a clipless pedal. All right, and I have shoes where there's a clip in the bottom. Okay, and I can clip those shoes into my pedal to make my pedaling more efficient. All right, and what do I mean by more efficient? Most of us, when we learn how to ride a bike, we just press forward. We don't have these clipless pedals. We can't pull backwards because if we started to lift our foot up, it would come off the pedal. All right, so with the clipless pedals, what happens is it keeps that foot locked in. All right, I can now pedal on the backstroke by pulling up my foot. Okay, so one of the things when you're riding a mountain bike, what they say is you want to make perfect circles. All right, forward and backwards, I want to try to make perfect circles with my feet, all right, to try to keep that going. All right.